Hey there guys, and welcome to another video. Gonna be pumping out some more videos here. Sorry for the long layoff. Videos should be coming more normally. With that being said, recently on Twitter, Serpent posted about air pollution in China. While air pollution often dominates headlines when discussing China's environmental issues, there are numerous other pollution challenges that the nation faces. You see, there's always these people that are willing to defend China by claiming that the air pollution has improved over the years, even though we all know the truth that it's still nowhere near that it should be. It's pretty much like trying to polish a turd at this point. From water contamination to soil degradation, China's struggles with pollution extend far beyond just the air quality. In this video, we delve into some of the lesser known environmental issues plaguing the country. Number one, of course, is going to be something that is not talked about a lot, and that is water pollution. China's water bodies have been heavily affected by industrial discharges, agricultural runoff, and untreated sewage. Many rivers, lakes, and coastal areas have suffered severe pollution, leading to water scarcity and decreased water quality. Here's a shocking fact. The Yangtze River, the longest river in Asia, has been particularly affected, with over 40% of its water deemed unfit for human consumption. Imagine that. The largest river in Asia, 40% of it is unfit for human consumption. Water pollution not only poses significant health risks to citizens, but also affects aquatic ecosystems and agricultural, further exasperating food security concerns. But don't even get me started with water. Let's talk about something else, and that is soil contamination. And this is something that when you live in China and you see the vegetables, you understand. Rampant industrialization and unregulated waste disposal have contributed to soil pollution across China. Heavy metals, chemicals, and hazardous materials have seeped into the soil, rendering vast areas of agricultural land unsuitable for cultivation. Crop contamination from these toxic substances poses a direct threat to food safety and human health. Moreover, soil degradation leads to reduced crop yields, impacting the country's ability to feed its massive population. And this is why agricultural issues in China are so common. This is why you always hear about them in China, because it's a much bigger concern than people think. The other thing is called e-waste. So e-waste crisis. As the world's largest producer of electric waste, China faces a mounting challenge in managing its e-waste. Improper disposal and recycling practices have resulted in environmental contamination and health hazards for those involved in informal e-waste recycling. While the Chinese government claims to take measures to tackle this issue, including implementing stricter regulations and promoting responsible recycling, the scale of the problem remains substantial. Keep in mind, this is the country where they brag about having so many phone manufacturers and things like that, but the e-waste in China is out of control. That being said, the next subject I think that is talked about a little bit actually is marine pollution. China also faces major issues with marine pollution because of its shipping and industrial activities along its coastline. Consequently, marine pollution has become a pressing concern. Oil spills, plastic waste, and chemical discharge have all contributed to the deterioration of marine ecosystems and the loss of biodiversity. Furthermore, contaminated seafood poses health risks to consumers and impacts the livelihoods of millions of people involved in the fishing industry. I think that this is something that we do hear about quite a bit more. Countries are worried about having China's vessels within their waters because of how dirty they are, because of how uncaring they are about the ecosystem around them. But the other thing is the air quality inside of buildings. While outdoor air pollution often takes center stage, indoor air quality in China's densely populated urban centers is also a significant concern. Poor ventilation, coupled with the use of coal and biomass for heating and cooking, contributes to high levels of indoor air pollution. This leads to various health issues, particularly respiratory problems, affecting vulnerable populations such as children and the elderly. This is why when you go to China, you'll see how popular these machines are that people have in their homes to clean the air, because they've come to realize that the air quality even inside of their home is very poor. So in conclusion, what does that mean? It means that China's struggles with pollution goes beyond the well-known issue of air quality. water pollution, soil contamination, e-waste, marine pollution, and indoor air quality are all pressing environmental challenges that the country must address. Again, recently American officials traveled to China in an effort to convince China to work harder towards these goals, only for Xi Jinping to come out the very next day, make a speech telling the world that they're going to be working on bettering itself with pollution, but that it will do in its own way, in its own time, as it pleases itself, the way that China does. Basically, we all know what this means. This means that China has no idea, no plan to change or anything like that. Of course, they're just telling everyone that it is making a legitimate effort, but not actually doing anything. I think with Xi Jinping in power, we will continue to see more and more of this type of thing, where they tell the world that they're going to be improving in certain situations, but nothing will change. Which is why I find it hilarious when you look on places like Twitter and you see people that are willing to defend China so much, so down basically to death. They will defend China for hours on end on Twitter, talking about how the air quality has improved. Imagine the air quality. They say, look at this picture from this date compared to this date, and you can see in Beijing how the air quality has improved so much. But the real question is, forget about the air quality for a moment. What about everything else? I always tell people this story. When I lived in Guangzhou, I used to travel to Foshan. To put things into perspective, when I traveled to Foshan, I remember we used to drive across this bridge, and I would see trucks legitimately dumping things into the river. And I mean, these are not rocks. This is clearly like waste, from industrial type things that they shouldn't be putting in the water. And I remember seeing people fish in this water, and I remember thinking to myself, what a disaster. How can these giant trucks back up to a river that's probably connected to people's drinking water here, in Foshan or that area there in Shunda, and how can they just dump from the back of their truck into that river and nobody say anything, nobody bats an eye, nobody cares? Because keep in mind, this is right next to a bridge. There are hundreds and thousands of cars driving by. People from the city, people that work there, know that they're dumping into this river. But for whatever reason, nobody does anything. And to put into perspective about how nasty and dirty this river is, I remember seeing stuff floating on the top that was bubbling. Okay? This is my personal experience, what I seen. So I wanted to tell that story just because I wanted people to realize that not only is air pollution in China an issue, but water pollution, soil pollution, and the continued issues with e-waste. So is China going to make an effort to change? No, they definitely are not. Either way, I hope you liked this video. Of course, go on over to Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Become a channel member. All of those good things. Subscribe, comment, and everyone have a good day, of course. Thank you so much.